Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm continuing on with my series of how I would rewrite Ash's journeys across multiple series in the anime, and today I wanted to focus on Ash's Sinnoh journey. Now this video is going to be a bit different from my previous videos because I don't really plan on making a full series for this video, even just a few videos. I think this is going to be the only video that I do focusing on Ash's Sinnoh journey, and that is because I thought Ash's Sinnoh journey was actually pretty well done. I really enjoyed the Diamond and Pearl series. That was the first series where I started watching the series in Japanese. I was following all the future events, and I was just getting more into the anime. And I think Sinnoh was really well done, so I don't really plan on making another video after this one, but if I decide to later on, I will definitely let you guys know. But for now, I think this will be the only video where I focus on Ash's Sinnoh journey, so it's probably going to be a bit of a longer one. I do have a lot to get through here, but like I said, I do think most of Ash's Sinnoh journey was pretty good, so I'm only going to be going over the big changes that I'm going to be doing here. So with that out of the way, let's get right into the video. Most of the story elements from Ash's journey will remain primarily the same. The only big changes will come to his traveling companions and some elements of his team and his gym battles. We're going to get into the traveling companion side later on in this video, but for now, let's go over Ash's team. His team will be Pikachu, Staraptor, Torterra, Infernape, Floatzel, and Gliscor. So right off the bat, you probably already noticed that Gible will not be on this team, and I'm going to explain why. I really just didn't feel the need for Ash to catch Gible. I never understood why he caught it in the first place in the original series, because Gible was caught so late and really didn't end up doing much. He essentially was just there for comedy and for his running gag with not being able to use Draco Meteor properly and having it hit Piplup, which honestly to me got a bit annoying after a while. It just felt it was just very unfunny to me, and it felt like it went on for way too long. And I just felt that we didn't need to get rid of Gliscor just to give Ash a Gible, who really didn't even do much. Gible could have easily been used in the final gym battle against Volkner. He caught him actually before he battled Volkner, but Gible wasn't even used there. Gible was only used in a couple battles in the league. He got to start against Conway, I guess, but aside from that, Gible really just didn't add much to Ash's team, and I personally felt that Gliscor was already being handled pretty well. He had his little growth arc and story, and so I really just don't see why they felt the need to remove him from Ash's team and then to put Gible on so late in the series. So I'm not going to be having Gliscor leave Ash's team, and Gible just won't be present at all. The only other big change in the actual lineup will be Buizel evolving into Floatzel, and I'll be explaining why that happens a bit later on. So most of the story elements for Ash's team and the series will remain primarily the same, as I mentioned, but the biggest changes are going to be with his gym battles, mainly with regard to Chimchar. I personally felt Chimchar's story was handled really great. I think it was really well done. It was very much developed over the entire course of that series. Started out from the beginning showing off him being with Paul, with this very abusive trainer, and having to grow away from him and learn a different battling style with Ash. So all that was really great, and I think Chimchar and Infernape wound up being a really popular character because of that. People wanted to root for him and see him finally beat Paul and show him what a mistake he made by getting rid of him. I thought all that was handled really well, like I said, but the only issue is I thought he ended up taking just a bit too much spotlight on Ash's team, and because of that, other Pokemon I think ended up suffering. I think a great example of that is Torterra, who really got shafted later on. He didn't even get any major wins after evolving. I'm going to be changing up some of the gym battles. Some of them will have Chimchar removed, some of them I'll be taking away just a few wins from him, but don't worry, all other elements from his story will be the same. He'll still have his battles against Paul, he'll still be appearing in lots of different battles with other trainers, so don't be too upset that I'm changing some of these things. I'm doing it because I want to show off all of the entire team, rather than just having Infernape be in the main spotlight. So the first two gym battles, Ash doesn't even have Chimchar on his team, so we can just skip those and go straight into Maylene's gym battle, which is the first gym battle Ash had after catching Chimchar, and thus the first gym battle he appeared in. I'm going to be making a pretty big change here, in that Chimchar won't be used in this gym battle at all. If we remember correctly, Chimchar didn't even get a win in this gym. Staravia and Buizel ended up taking out all of Maylene's Pokemon. So because Chimchar didn't even get a win here, I'm going to just be removing him from this gym battle entirely. And instead, I'll be putting Gligar in here. This will allow Gligar to be used in an earlier gym battle, since in the actual series, Gligar didn't appear in a gym until the 6th gym against Byron after he'd fully evolved into Gliscor. And I know the reason for that is because Gligar's entire story was that he was very, very weak. He had to really be trained a lot before he was able to evolve and then finally be used in a gym battle. But I'm going to be changing things up a bit here. I'm going to say that Gligar is still kind of weak, but he isn't as weak as he was portrayed in the actual series. He'll be of a decent enough strength to be able to handle his own in the gym, but not trained well enough to be able to get an actual win yet. So just like with the series, Gligar won't be getting any wins here, but he will do a major part in the role of roughing up Maylene's team just a bit for Staravia and Buizel to take the big wins. Again, even though Gligar didn't know any flying type moves, since he does have that resistance against fighting types, we're going to say he'll be able to hold his own in this battle, and therefore he'll be able to get some battle experience here. I will be keeping Chimchar in the battle against Fantina, but instead of defeating both Fantina's, Mismagius, and Drifloon, he will defeat Mismagius, but it'll be Ash's Gliscor who will get the win in a battle against Drifloon, which I'm going to say will be an aerial battle, showing off how Gliscor has learned how to fly better, since that was another issue of Gligar that he really couldn't fly all too well or glide around, so we're going to say that he works on that here in this gym battle, and he'll get the win against Drifloon. In the original battle against Byron, Chimchar was able to defeat both Byron's Bronzor and Steelix. In my version, I'm going to say Chimchar will be able to defeat Bronzor before going down. Buizel, who actually lost to Steelix in the actual battle, will instead be the one to defeat Steelix, and he and Gliscor combined will be the ones battling Bastiodon, and I'm going to say Gliscor will actually get the win here with an actual ground type move that he learns, Earth Power. Ash's gym battle with Candace will remain unchanged because I thought this was pretty well done, and so I'm going to leave it the same, allowing Chimchar to be used in the battle and get his 2 knockouts. The very last battle change will be against Volkner. Again, I'm going to be removing Infernape from this battle. Instead, I'm going to be using Gliscor, Torterra, and Pikachu. Gliscor will be the one to take down Jolteon, but then lose to Electivire, who knows Ice Punch. Pikachu will also lose to Electivire, and Torterra will be the ones to take down both Electivire and Luxray. This will allow Torterra to be the star of this gym battle, rather than being the first one to lose, as he actually was in the series. And again, I'm making these changes because I want more of Ash's Pokemon to shine, rather than it just being the Chimchar show and the Infernape show for the entire series. Torterra, like I said, was really shafted by the end, and he just pretty much lost every single battle since he evolved, and I really think he should have been used in the Electric Gym to shine, not to get a loss. Furthermore, Gliscor should have been used here, he shouldn't have been given away, and if he was given away, they should have just used Gible here. But like I said, I'm just going to be changing that, and I'm going to be making it that Torterra will be used here, and he will be taking out both Electivire and Luxray. So those are the big changes with the gym battles out of the way, but I'm sure you're probably asking, well, since Infernape isn't going to be mastering Blaze in the Volkner battle, since he's not there at all, when is he going to master Blaze? I'm changing things around. If you guys remember in the series, Ash did have a battle against Flint and his Infernape before he battled Volkner. This was basically a battle to try to get Volkner back into battling spirit, since he goes through that arc where he doesn't really care about his gym and battling trainers anymore. They had that battle to try to reignite his spirit, but I'm going to be moving that battle to take place after this gym battle. Instead, Flint will have this battle with Ash as a reward, or as a thank you, for getting Volkner back into his fighting spirit, and it'll be the same. They will use their Infernapes against each other, but this will be the battle where Infernape masters Blaze. So essentially, it's just going to happen right after the gym battle instead of being there. So I think this would also be much better because it allows him to master Blaze in a battle against Flint, against an Elite Four member, against his strongest, his Infernape. So I think that'll be much better story-wise because it allows Torterra and Gliscor to get some screen time and some wins in the Volkner gym battle, and Infernape is still able to master Blaze in a very tough battle, but this time against an Elite Four member. So like I said, I do want to give some more attention to Ash's other Pokemon, and I'm going to say that Buizel is going to become slightly jealous, seeing at how much use and attention Infernape would be getting over time, since he is still going to be having his arc with wanting to be stronger and wanting to beat Paul and Master Blaze, and so because of that, Infernape ends up being used much more, just as he is in the series. But I'm going to say that Buizel, who was pretty much the strong one when he was with Dawn and when he joined Ash, he was really just thought of as a super strong Buizel. That was his whole thing when he was caught. I'm going to say that he ends up being just a bit jealous at how much more Infernape is being used, and how Torterra, he evolves and he's going to be used more in my story. So Buizel's going to want to have his own work, want to become even stronger, and eventually he's going to want to evolve. So I'm going to say that around the time Buizel learns Ice Punch, he's going to want to train to evolve into Floatzel, and eventually he probably will around sometime before the league. So the battle against Paul is going to slightly change. I will admit, while I do love the battle of Ash versus Paul at the league, I always personally felt that Infernape took so much damage and such a hard beating in that battle that it almost came across as being somewhat unrealistic that he was still standing, able to battle against Electivire, who hadn't battled at all before that point, and able to defeat it. I know he defeated it with Mastering Blaze and being able to use his powered up moves, but honestly, I feel like it does make sense from one standpoint to show Infernape being able to take out so much of Paul's team, but like I said, I do still want to show off more of Ash's other team members. So I'm going to say that Infernape is saved for a bit later into the battle, and that Paul's other Pokemon will go down to others. I'm going to say his Aggron will be taken down by Torterra, again, allowing Torterra to get a win here. Floatzel will still take out Gastron, but like I said, he's just now evolved into Floatzel and not Weasel anymore. Drapion will take out the evolved Floatzel and Staraptor, but he will fall to Torterra. Torterra will then go down to Ninjask, who will be using his Bug-type moves to have the advantage. Since we've given Gliscor those earlier gym wins and participation, I'm going to say he's going to lose against Ninjask as well, and then Infernape will take Ninjask down. Then he'll battle against Frostlass for a bit before being recalled. Frostlass will battle against Pikachu, who will be able to take her out, but then Pikachu will of course lose to Electivire as usual, and then Infernape will take down Electivire in the end. I think this makes just a bit more sense that it allows Infernape to still have a few wins against Paul in a few different battles, but he's not going to be battling across so much, across getting poisoned, having to battle against Ninjask and Aggron and take a lot of damage, and then have to go against Electivire and still be standing at the end. Plus, like I said, it allows other Pokemon to get more wins. It allows Gliscor to have some time to shine, but he'll actually get a loss here because we did give him all those earlier wins before, and now we can give more of a spotlight to Infernape in the battle that matters the most. That was my biggest reason for changing some of these battles. I think the battle against Paul is the one that mattered the most for Infernape to get that time to shine. He really didn't need all those wins against Maylene, against Byron, against Fantina, because it's not like Paul was watching those battles, it's not like Paul was seeing Chimchar's growth, so that was really more for us, the audience. But like I said, I really want the rest of Ash's team to have some time to shine, as opposed to, say, Torterra being really shafted by the end. Even Weasel, like I said, aside from mastering Ice Punch, he really didn't do much by the later half of the series. Staraptor, he was still used in a lot of battles, but I'm going to say he's also going to have more usage and more of his Arc wanting to become stronger. So I really just want all of Ash's team to shine here. So that's going to be pretty much all of rewriting Ash's point in Sinnoh. Now let's get into changing up his travel companions, because yes, there are some changes here. You probably noticed by looking at the thumbnail that one of the big changes with this rewrite is going to be that Brock will not be appearing here to travel with Ash. Instead, I'm going to be replacing him with Lucas. Now I know, all of Brock's fans are probably going to be very upset to hear this. I'm already sure that Infernape's fans will be very upset with the changes I made earlier, but I'm going to explain why I'm not having Brock here. And that's because I really just felt that Brock had outlived his usefulness, for lack of a better term. I know that sounds very harsh, but if we look back at the Sinnoh series, and honestly, I'd even argue in the AG series, Brock really didn't end up doing that much. Most of the focus was on Ash and Dawn in Sinnoh, and most of the focus was on Ash and May back in Hoenn, and Brock just felt like he was tacked onto these two series just because they replaced the girls, so that I guess they felt they needed some consistency and some familiar faces aside from just Ash and Pikachu, so they just brought Brock along. But I really felt that Brock didn't need to be in AG, and he definitely didn't need to be in Sinnoh. At least in AG, Brock was still being funny, he had his comedic moments, and he felt like he was having a bigger part in the journey. But honestly, by Sinnoh, it really was just the Ash and Dawn show, and Brock really just felt like he was on the side, not doing much of anything. And I think that's one of the big reasons why Brock didn't even continue on past Sinnoh, because I really felt that the writers also realized that Brock wasn't doing much of anything, and it just made more sense to show more new faces aside from just replacing the girls. So I actually really liked that decision that Brock was being replaced later on, but I also really felt that he didn't need to be in Sinnoh. If we just go back and watch Sinnoh, Brock really didn't have too many major moments, aside from just chasing after girls like he always did, and then having the moment with Yuxi. He really had no reason to be there. And honestly, if it wasn't for the 3 Lake Guardians, I feel like I would just write Brock out entirely, not have a third character. I just have it be Ash and Dawn. But since there is the Lake Trio thing going on, I thought that I would just have Lucas replace Brock here. So Lucas will essentially own the exact same Pokemon that Brock owned. He'll catch a Croagunk, he'll have Bonsly, and he'll have Happiny, and I'm also going to be giving him a Togepi for reasons I'll explain later. One minor change to this team is that I'm going to make his Croagunk a female, and that's just because of me in general. I originally thought that Brock's Croagunk was a female in the show, only for it to be revealed to be a male, so just as a minor change, I'm going to be changing his to be a female, because I just think it's really nice that I would like to see. Lucas will have his game role of being the professor's assistant, and Professor Rowan will recommend to Lucas to travel around with Dawn and Ash because he will be able to study more about Pokemon evolution, which will be much easier when he's out and about traveling, seeing the region, as opposed to being stuck in the lab all the time. So something interesting that I would do is say that Lucas would be more active in the story, and that unlike Brock, who really just kind of existed for the majority of the show and didn't really do anything interesting, I'd have Lucas occasionally try out gym battles and even contests after seeing Ash and Dawn take part in them. Being Professor Rowan's assistant, I feel like Lucas would only have experience in just like observing Pokemon and would really want more experience in doing more things with them, seeing more of the Pokemon world. And I'm going to say that would be one of the major reasons he decides to travel with Ash and Dawn in the first place. However, Lucas doesn't really aspire to be a coordinator or a trainer, but he feels like taking part in these activities would allow him to bond more with his Pokemon and learn more about them. Now, I'm going to say this eventually does lead to tension between him and Dawn, because I do think he would occasionally win some of the contests he enters, thus preventing Dawn from earning some ribbons. And I feel like Lucas would even offer to give her the ribbons he won, but she'd probably just refuse them because she'd want to earn hers herself. You know, it's not like Ash's situation where there's only a certain amount of winners for gyms. It's not a competition between multiple people. It's one-on-one battles, and anyone who wins gets a badge. Whereas when you enter a contest, there can only be one winner. So if Lucas wins, then Dawn doesn't. And so I imagine this would also lead to some more tension between them and give them more interactions. And I probably would have Ash, get stuck in the middle of this kind of situation because he wouldn't know whose side to take. So he'd probably just prefer to stay out of it, honestly. But this, to me, would be just a great dynamic to have between the three of them, as opposed to how it was with Brock, where he was really just there, giving advice, chasing girls, not really doing anything of interest until the last couple of episodes. I think this issue would also play a role in Dawn's lack of confidence arc, as she's going to struggle with the fact that not only is she losing contests, but she's being beaten by someone who doesn't even want to be a coordinator. Lucas is just waltzing in these contests, winning them, but he doesn't even want to be a top coordinator. He doesn't want to enter the Grand Festival. He's just doing this for fun. So I think this will really also help out when Dawn has her whole lack of confidence arc. And speaking of Dawn, her team will remain the same. The only difference will be that Ambipom will not be released. I, like many, always thought it was very stupid that they went through the whole process of bringing Apom over from Kanto with Ash over to Sinnoh, and then they had this whole thing where they traded Apom for Buizel so Apom could do the contest she loved. She loved even since back before she'd gone to Sinnoh. She left them way back when Ash was still traveling with them in Kanto. But the whole ping pong thing, getting rid of Apom by having her play ping pong, I thought that was just so stupid. Many people, I think, also thought it was so dumb as a way to get rid of Ambipom. If they were going to release Ambipom, at least they could have come up with a better reason than ping pong out of nowhere. But I think that whole thing was just very dumb. If they wanted Dawn to have a Togekiss, they could have just given her one with good reason behind it. But yeah, getting rid of Ambipom, I always thought was very dumb. So I'm going to say Ambipom isn't released and she'll just be on Dawn's full team as she should have been. And she's going to still enter the ping pong competition, but she's just going to use those newly learned skills to help her out in contests. So that's going to change up the final Grand Festival round, where Dawn will be using Ambipom and Piplup instead of Togekiss and Piplup because she won't be having Togekiss. Ambipom will use her ping pong skills to smack opponents' attacks back at them as if you were playing ping pong. So she does still learn that new skill, but she doesn't decide to go play ping pong. She just decides to use those in contests because, again, I think Ambipom's whole character was that she just loved contests so much. I really thought it was just odd to even suggest that she would be leaving Dawn just to go play ping pong. And by the way, I'm still going to have Dawn lose to Zoe, as I personally, first of all, I just like Zoe as a character more than Dawn. But regardless, I still always felt that Zoe was more experienced and she just deserved to win the Grand Festival more. So I'm telling you right now that Dawn would still lose, but I'm just going to change that final round because I think it just makes so much more sense for her final round Pokemon to be Piplup, her starter, and Ambipom, the Pokemon she got from Ash. And you probably already guessed that since Dawn won't be having Togekiss, that Togekiss will be the evolved form of Lucas's Togepi, who will probably fully evolve by the time Dawn would have been given her Togekiss. So we're still going to have a Togekiss on the main cast, so it all works out. The last change that I would make to this series is Ash's loss in the Sinnoh League. So I would still have Ash lose. However, it would not be to Tobias. Now, I'm not even one of those people who thought Tobias, I hated him, but I did think it was just really just so weird to bring him in there, just for the sole purpose of Ash losing. You bring in this guy with legendaries. Like, the only way they could get Ash to lose was to bring in some guy with a Darkrai and a Latios. It was just really lame. But I'm gonna say that Ash is gonna lose instead to Barry. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say that Barry won't lose to Paul earlier. Paul will match up with someone else, and Barry will match up with other people. And Barry will be the final person Ash battles in the league. And I'm also doing this because I would introduce Barry much earlier than he was actually introduced. He would be introduced probably around the same time that Nando was introduced, and he would be Ash's secondary main rival. Though, of course, Paul would still be the main rival. Everything with Paul would be exactly the same. I'm just bringing in Barry a bit earlier because, as I've mentioned in several videos before, I really never like how the anime staff tends to push off game rivals to the side, either introducing them super late or not introducing them at all. So I just make sure Barry was introduced much earlier, and he would be a secondary rival to Paul, not taking the main rival slot, but he'd just be there introduced early, and Ash would battle him time on and time off occasionally, you know, just like most rivals where you introduce them early, they just appear every so often. That's what Barry would be. And yeah, I'd give Barry the victory over Ash in the Sinnoh League. But I'd say that Ash makes it at least to the semifinals with Barry. So Barry would probably just win and become the champion. But like I said, yeah, the reason I'm doing this is because I just felt Tobias was so dumb that they had to introduce a guy literally with legendaries. They couldn't even just make a strong trainer with just average strong Pokemon. It had to be a guy with legendaries. It just seems so unnecessary. So I'm just going to say that this will be Barry's role. So that's pretty much going to wrap things up with this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Like I said, because I thought Sinnoh was handled really well in terms of Ash's journey, I didn't feel the need to make too many changes to the point that I'd make a full series out of this. So this brief summary will probably be all we get, unless I change my mind in the future or think of other things I might want to change. But with that out of the way, that's going to be the end of this video, and I will see you guys with another video from my series of rewriting Ash's journeys very soon in the future. So I will see you guys then. Thank you.